Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Afternoon. More like that. I was going to be a little bit worried, for Sasol, if this is the atmosphere and the energy in the room. I'll try it again. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. That's more like it. Hi. As already introduced, my name is Theo Baloyi. I'm the first employee officer for Bathu, or I work for a company called Bathu. We are a proudly South African sneaker business, and our vision is to build a shoe brand that Africans can proudly affiliate with. Right at the core of our mission, we want to reignite hope and create sustainable jobs. So, thank you to Sasol for the invitation. And when I got the brief, was that I need to come here to engage, with entrepreneurs and stakeholders for the business. And I think I was a little bit, scared to say, I think I should be I should be part of the audience and learn. So I don't know because what I'm going to talk about. Then I decided that, let me just come through and talk about my story and who I am and what we do in the business and how we've managed to sort of build our business and put an infrastructure and a value chain that is going to help us scale our business, and how we've done it over the last 5 years. More than anything else, I think in the intro you can pick it up that I am a product of opportunity. I come from humble beginnings, born and bred in Pretoria, later moved to Alexandra to further my studies in accounting. And I'll tell you why I always like referring myself as a product of opportunity more than anything else. Because throughout my journey, I've been awarded great opportunities that allowed me to propel in life. And I've worked for great corporates under great leadership with great counsel that also allowed me to propel myself, and later on started a business that offered other people opportunities. So that's literally the cycle of my life, from how I started and I got into an opportunity to be in varsity. My late dad sold his car for me to get into varsity. And I always say that moment for me, it was a moment that set me up for greatness because I couldn't afford to fail. There was two things that I needed to bring home. It's either qualification or the 1998 Honda Ballade that they sold at home, So it really allowed me to really put in the effort and to build myself, I worked so hard that year I got a bursary from a trust called Tomorrow Trust. It was 100% bursary that covered for my tuition and allowances as well. Then worked hard that year that I became the top accounting student of the year. Which was a very good accolade, especially where I came from, The following year, and I think corporates like Sasol will understand this better, that, they always afford or become donors to trusts that offer bursaries. So PwC was a donor to Tomorrow Trust. And it was just after the economic crunch, the 2008 economic crunch. So they made a little bit of profit and they thought about, we need to sponsor a student in accounting. And that year, obvious, there was one top accounting student. So that's how I got to, be funded by PwC to further my studies. Then went into PwC on a fixed-term contract. The contract was that they would pay for my studies, and then I'll come and work for them for a year because they didn't have budget to take me on a permanent basis. Then worked so hard, when I got to PwC, I was always the guy with, I think, the right balance between soft skills and technical skills and a great attitude. So I was always the guy that when I was working on a project, maybe a project of 10 people, a partner, an associate director, a senior manager, and a few junior and senior associates, I would have a very great balance in terms of, I think, my skills between soft and technical skills. So I would be a guy who, when I go for coffee, for instance, I would, I wouldn't just jump out of the boardroom and go for coffee. I would ask, guys, I'm going out for coffee. Anyone who wants some? Obviously, I can't bring 10 cups of coffee to the table, but it really matters around how, inclusive I was in my approach, even at the junior level. So, between working for chargeable projects or non-chargeable projects, or we billing a client or not, I was always the guy who would put myself forth, on those projects to be able to add value to the bottom line, add value to the client, and so forth. So the partners or the leadership that I worked for at the time, really, really liked that about me, that when they couldn't employ all the graduates that were part of the graduate training program, they said, we need to keep this guy at all costs. because he's got so much, or he oozes so much energy and he's got so much potential. And that's how I got to be employed by PwC on a permanent basis, right? And if you look at, I'll come back to why I'm telling this story and why I want to tie it to me being a product of opportunity. Long story short, then worked for PwC, did very well in my projects, always through moderation, got good grades, got promotions and so forth. And because of I was always available to help and to add value, and I was always, I never shied away from project because they're not billable, or I'm not interested in that competency or in that skill set. I just wanted to learn from asset management to strategy consulting, to auditing. I would just move around within competencies just to sort of empower myself. Then an opportunity came to the firm, an asset management opportunity to go to Saudi Arabia to actually do asset management on a short-term project for 3 months. And on that job, there was one partner, and a senior manager, and a junior associate, or an associate on that. And then obvious, there's one guy that you can really rely on, that wherever you are, this guy is going to show up, right? And that's how I got to be a part of that project. I'd never done asset management before, but I was always willing to learn and eager to learn. Then went on to that project, did very well in that project, to a point that the client, the Saudi electricity company, the telecom in the Middle East, they just don't have load shedding, but it's basically SEC for them, right? And then they awarded phase 2. Then PwC EMEA region, then decided to say, we will set up an asset management business unit, because this is phase 2, it's a big project. We might as well not outsource from South Africa, but build our own team as PwC EMEA region. Then my partner said, they obviously employed my partner to lead up that business unit, Neil Snell, and he had to come and build his own team. So that's how I he chose me to be part of the team, and that's how I got to be in the Middle East. Became part of the asset management team in the Middle East, went on there, resigned from PwC South Africa, to be part of PwC EMEA region. And that was a great opportunity because it exposed me to the globe and to different business dynamics and really what's happening globally, in different cultures and dynamics in that region. And I found myself in a position whereby when I look back, my life has changed so much, but my reality did not change. And maybe you might be wondering, what do you mean? I was awarded great opportunities, traveling in between South Africa and really having great experiences with people, with the world. But my reality was that all the time when I went back home, when I landed in Ora Tambo and I had to go to my apartment and freshen up, and get into my nice car, sunroof. I just got back from Dubai, sunroof, shades on, I'm happy. The minute I drive into Alex, my reality was revealed. And when I park and start talking to the gents and the people in my community, we can't relate. They don't resonate with my experience and how when I try to tell them about airport lounges, when I try to tell them about Burj Khalifa, when I try to tell them about the highest building, they're like, which world do we live in, bro? Like, we can't resonate with you. We don't hear you. And oftentimes when I went back to the people that mentored me, the people that offered me or awarded me great opportunities, trying to express a sense of gratitude and to say, thank you so much for everything else that you've done for me, the opportunities that awarded me, here's a gift. My mentors and those people that gave me the opportunities always had one big ask. And the ask was, Theo, we don't want anything from you. The only ask that we've got is that you need to pay it forward. That's all that we want from you. And that's how the birth of Bathu came about. Traveling between Middle East and South Africa, I love sneakers, self-proclaimed sneakerhead. I'm spending lots of money in collecting limited editions of international footwear brands, to a point that end of 2015, I had a valuable collection of sneakers. And there's a saying that says, if you're buying too much of it, then why not own it? Then I'm looking at this collection, I'm like, dollars of, value here. I might as well own a sneaker brand. Long story short, I did about 18 months of research and development, proof of concept, and all of that behind footwear and retail sector in Africa. And one of the findings from that research was that we've got about 7 continents in the world. And if you look at each and every continent, there's a fair representation of a footwear brand. You look at South America, we've got from Brazil, Ipanema, and Havanians. The States itself has got Nike, started by Phil Knight, Under Armour, Kevin Plank, Converse, Chuck Taylor, and many other European footwear brands, and a lot of Italian footwear brands, which is leading now in the world in terms of footwear brands. And don't get me wrong, we do have footwear brands in Africa, but those footwear brands cannot be benchmarked with those international footwear brands that I've just mentioned. Benchmarked in terms of product development, we can even take it further to CSI, the market share, their brand promise, their brand value, and so forth. We don't have that sneaker brand that represents Africa. And I had passion for sneakers. I really liked sneakers. And that was passion, and that was my reality. My reality of what my community looks like. And oftentimes, when I talk to the people in my community and try to understand that, why are you not employed? Why are you in the streets? Why are you not going to school? Why are you not empowering yourself? Oftentimes, you realize that it's not because of they are lazy or anything. But when you listen to the stories, you realize that it's not everyone who was awarded opportunities like some of us have been awarded. Not everyone who had a dad to sell a car for them to go to varsity. Not everyone had an opportunity to at least be in varsity and study, even if for the first semester, and get a bursary. Not everyone was fortunate to be in that journey and get a sponsor from Sasol, a donor like Sasol, to come and say, we will take care of you. Even some of them, when they've graduated, not all of them had a PwC that can come to them and say, we'll give you each 1 year fixed-term contract. And when you listen to the stories, you realize that it's very easy for me to be just behind Burj Khalifa, fancy office and suits and ties, and say those guys are lazy. It was very easy. And I could be living the Instagram live because I'm in the Middle East. I can go to London, I can go to US, I can go, and say, you guys are lazy. So I had to make a decision. Do I sit here and point fingers, or do I actually live it, all of it, and go back home and build with my people and build from the ground up and create impact? What do? I decided to leave it all. To leave it all because I realized that if I leave it all and I start from the ground up and I could be exposed, I could be vulnerable, and I could really build this brand. It's not a far-fetched PR story from the US. People can see me packing boxes in Alexandra, putting them in my car, and going to deliver. And if I can get to build that and build from that, people will actually now start or begin to have hope and to follow their dreams. Yes, I cannot employ everyone from Alex, but if that grows, it can become something very beautiful. Went to my partner's office, just beginning of the year, FY 17-18, just before everything else, before strategy for the year and everything else. Went to my partner's office and I'm like, Niels, thank you for everything else that you've done for me, but I'm going to pack my bags, I'm going to go back home, and I'm going to sell sneakers. And he was like, you're going to sell sneakers? Like, yeah, I'm going to sell sneakers. Oh, so you're going to be a retailer, you're going to sell Nike and Adidas and all of that. I'm like, no. I'm going to sell my own brand. And I was like, phew, okay. Go for it. And again, it goes back to my point. I worked for great leaders whom encouraged me to go for it. And I went for it. Packed everything else, worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers for 5 years, took all my savings and deployed them as seed capital into my business and built the business from the ground up. 5 years later, that very same business employs about 300 people. We've got about 30 brick and mortar stores in the country. And it was all about that leap of faith and trying to be of service. Being of service to your clients, being of service to your communities, being of service to your stakeholders, and more than anything else, to your country, if possible. And that's exactly our business. And that is why our business says, our mission says, we want to reignite hope and create sustainable jobs. That's where the mission comes from. And I think we've done very well to really advocate for that mission. Because over the years, we've won accolades that really speaks to that. Just last year, we got the Job Creation Company of the Year at the Top Empowerment Award. We got the Employer of Choice at the HR Awards. And then the big one that we've actually gotten at the BBK Awards was the Transformation Champion of the Year. And that speaks about the transformation that we make in our communities. And that's really what our business stands for. And how we really got to grow that, I'm sure a lot of you guys are really interested to say, we hear the story, but what are the mechanics like? What is the value chain? What is the strategy like? What is the way forward? How are you building for the future? I was very intentional about how we're going to build our business. With the 18 months research and development, or the research that I've done over the years, I've really studied retail industry in South Africa and how retail really operates or functions. And I decided to take a complete different route. Whereas a lot of brands, local brands, or brands really prefer the retail route, where they build a brand and they retail it through different retailers, normally the big groups, the big retail groups. I decided not to do that. And I know a lot of, it sounds scary to say, you. I decided to build a brand that is going to be exclusively available at our retail stores. And the reason for that is because of I had a big mission. My mission was not only obviously to build a business and make profit, but to reignite hope and create sustainable jobs wherever possible. So I realized that a lot of brands in South Africa, or in retail industries, that you retail your brand, but you don't have control of your brand promise. You don't have sometimes control of even your own consumer, because you can do your manufacturing, warehouse your product, but sometimes that's where your value chain stretches, and from there it's limited. Because the Foschini group, or sorry to mention names, but another group can come, or the retailer can come and get your product, then retail it on your behalf, then you do the marketing. The client comes because of your brand promise. They buy your product at the retail group, and then the retail group gets to keep the data, gets to control how your product is positioned, get to tell your story, probably not in the way you would tell it. But not because of that. That's the economic side of it. For me, was that if I'm going to reignite hope and create sustainable jobs, I need to own 100% of the value chain and be in control of my value chain. The reason for that is because of if I get my own facility and warehouse facility or manufacturing plant, I get to create jobs in that component of the value chain. If I warehouse my product, I get someone to come pack the boxes. If I get my own truck, I get someone to come drive the truck. If I build my own store, I get someone to sell my product and to sell my brand promise. Most importantly, data is key. If Theo walks into my store, I get to keep his data for remarketing, repurposing, re-engaging, because of client is key. And that has been our strategy for the longest of time. And a lot of people ask me, how did you actually get to build this business in such a short space of time? And I always contributed not only, obviously to the support that we've gotten over the years, because people have supported our business, but also our value chain really supports our growth. And what we've done is that, over the last years, during the pandemic, we actually opened 24 stores since lockdown. Out of the 30, 24 stores were opened during lockdown or the pandemic. And that was also an intentional move, because the first 2 years of my business, I never had retail stores. And even though I was approached by landlords, I said no, because I was very intentional and strategic. And my strategy was that, because knowing my balance sheet, we are 100% own business, no funding whatsoever with our business. And the way we did it was that the first 2 years of our business was that we were still up, like a very good turnover business with minimal OPEX or operational expenditure. And we took all of that and built our working capital. And it was a perfect move, because of when we went into the pandemic, landlords really were struggling with tenants. And we managed to, number one, leverage from the negotiations of our leases, and we had the working capital to invest in the brick and mortars. And that ties in with our strategy, because we could negotiate our leases based on our strategy. The landlords did not push us to sign a 3-year lease or 4-year lease. We were at liberty to say, no, we want 2 years. We can't take 5 years, we're going to take 3 years. And that really worked well with our value chain and our business and our strategy. And not only that, but when President Ramaphosa announced lockdown, I think March 2020, it's been 2 years, shucks. 2020, retail was closed, I think, for a good 6 weeks, no trade at all. That we took a knock, obviously, but it helped us press a reset button, because it allowed us to integrate between our omni-channel and our brick and mortar, to really find a way to optimize our e-commerce platform. Today we've got things like click and collect in our stores. And that was a strategy that was put in during that time. You can buy your Bathu in Cape Town, and we can deliver it for you in Polokwane. Someone can buy it in Polokwane, and then someone can go and fetch it in Nelspruit. If you don't have a size in store for whatever the case might be, you can actually buy it. The team will help you buy it online, and it will be delivered in store. So those are some of the things that we've done strategically to help grow our business. And where we are going is that we realize that we actually have been supported by people. And brands have a mistake of doing a lot and taking their budget and focusing it on a consumer that can afford your product today, a consumer that can convert today, a consumer that can buy your product or services today. But brands don't necessarily focus on their future consumer. Brands want to jump on Caster Semenya when he's the person that she is today, He's become this brand. Brand wants to focus on Trevor Noah when Trevor Noah is Trevor Noah. We've decided to take a route that is completely different, to not only focus on a consumer that can buy our product today, but also a future consumer. And how we did that, we introduced a beautiful CSR called Bathu for Bathu Care Project, a shoe drive project that aims to donate 1 million pairs of school shoes in the next 10 years for free. And we took our very own proceeds to start that project. The same way that we started our business, bootstrapped the savings, we took some of the proceeds that we've got today and invested in that project. Because a Theo who's in grade 2, we go to him, we give him a pair of school shoes. We do the same when he's in grade 5, do the same when he's at grade 10, probably do the same when he's in higher education, higher learning, and we fund their studies. One day when they're CEO of Sasol, they will never forget the brand that walked the journey with them. And that speaks to our brand promise, walk your journey. We're not saying that to a consumer that can buy Bathu today, but we're saying it to the future consumer who's in grade 1 today. But tomorrow will be the CEO of Sasol. And that's where we're going. And with our brand going into the next, I think, 5-10 years, we've built a great appetite in SADC region and a great appetite in East and West Africa. I mean, just last year, we made it to the top 100 most admired African brands, a study that was conducted by Brands Africa over 28 countries that constitutes of 80% of African consumers. Here's this brand that comes from a room in Alexandra, making it to the top 10 alongside or amongst brands like Aligo the Dangote Group. Okay, thank you. The Dangote Group, MTN South Africa, Vodacom, and the likes, making to number 10 on an unprompted list. And that speaks to the appetite that we've got in Africa. And going forward with our CSI, we're going to go into SADC, East and West Africa, and say to the guys in Kenya and be like, this is who we are. This is how we've walked our journey in South Africa from a room in Alexandra. Tell us how you're doing it in Seweli or in Kenya, in Nairobi, wherever. Because we want to be a brand of choice to everyone who's about to advocate for their dreams. Because think about it. You don't get to wear a shoe unless you're about to embark on a journey. And we want Bathu to be a shoe of choice in that journey. Hence, we're saying, walk your journey. And we want our own Africans to look at our brand and go and be able to, or be inspired to walk the journey in our brand, or their respective journey in our brand. And not only that, but we want to build a brand that has an appetite to a global consumer. Someone who's sitting in Italy to look at our brand and really be like, I want to buy that brand, not because of some from Africa or they started from a room in Alex, but because their brand value, their brand promise speaks to me as an individual. Their sense of style that design speaks to me as an individual, and be that brand that Africans can proudly affiliate with. Ladies and gentlemen, I can talk the whole day about Bathu, but thank you. We've got 2 minutes. I don't know if I can do Q&A, but yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Theo, thank you so much. There's a few questions that have come through on our Slido app from people who are attending virtually. First of all, Sfungwazi, did you buy your dad a new car? That's what people want to know. We can skip it. We'll come back. We'll get your dad a Rolls Royce or something. And then Michelle made a comment to say thank you very much for highlighting the fact that you took your own money to grow the business, and the fact that sometimes people think that you need external funds, but a lot of growth happens with reinvesting. And then Patrick wanted to know, does Brand Bathu have a strategy with regards to using eco-friendly materials on their shoe production or biodegradable materials? And that's Patrick from Joburg.
Yeah, like we've said offsite, we are actually in talks with a few service providers around what we call sustainable fashion or renewable fashion. That's part of our strategy for the next 2 years. It's quite complex because we've got a hybrid manufacturing model, but we are looking into it.
Cool, awesome. And then I'll just give a moment to the room. Does anybody in the room want to ask a question? Does anybody have a specific question? Are we just feeling inspired? Okay, there's a gentleman at the table here at the back. And then we'll do the lady in the lovely orange dress here in the front.
Okay, thank you. My name is Tabanso Tetsi. I'm from a company called Food Teddy Manufacturing. We do manufacture clothing. Before I start, I would like to recognize women who are in this gathering. I think this is a very definition of Musadu Tshwaratipa ka bohaleng, because I see and here, okay, I can see the numbers. Women are more than us in here in this gathering.
Thanks for recognizing.
Okay, my question to you, Theo, is what advice do you have for, let's say, young people back there at home who thinks that starting a business is all about registering your company, having your tax clearance, your business plan, and then getting funding, only to realize that that's not how a business actually works? Thank you.
Yeah. Very good question. I think for me, one thing that comes tops is, and again, I don't want to speak from a point of privilege because I was employed in corporate. Even when I went into business, I sort of have an understanding of what it takes to run a business, and how do you actually get to build a business that you can scale it, right? But I think one thing that I want to say is that business goes beyond, I think, profit, number one. You need to be able to be of service, like I said, to your community, to your people and so forth. But most importantly, I think being able to corporatize your business. And what that means, it means a whole lot, but I think in simple terms, being able to put processes and policies that are going to allow you to scale. And I learned the hard way because with the way I started my business, I literally built it from the ground up. By one day I've got 20 orders. I take 2 more guys from the streets without the proper recruitment processes. The next day I got 40, I take 3 more, right? And they come and join us. The next day I've got 100 orders, and I take 4 more. This is no recruitment processes, no induction, no contracts whatsoever. When I get to the scale and growing the business, I had huge people issues because of the history and the way the business was running. Because of, I've been working here for 6 months and you took me from the streets and I've seen the business grow. Now you want me to sign a contract. Now there's policy. Now there's leave policies, So it's very important it doesn't matter where a business is at, but if you can, I'd advise you to try to corporatize this and put processes in place. Even if there's like the 2 of you guys or 4 people working for you, it's very important because when you go through a growth curve, you won't have issues because from day one, that has always been a benchmark and the foundation of your business. Yeah.
Ma'am?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Theo. My name is Ndilisa Didiza from Khotatso Innovations. I run a geographical information systems company. I've always been curious. Our business, if I can sum it up, is location intelligence. I've always been curious as to how do you decide where the next store is going to be? Is GIS one of the technologies that you used, especially during a time in COVID? Because what we found is that a lot of businesses fail because they don't consider the location aspect of where the business is.
Yeah.
We just say, there's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of, but we don't do the GIS studies that we as a company offer. So how do you then decide
100%.
how to establish the new shops? And congratulations.
Thank you.
Journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So a very good question. So like as I've said, that for us, we really took advantage of the pandemic, especially the hard lockdown, because we were forced to pause, to pause the speed of growth. The speed of releasing products, the speed of employment. And that really forced us to repurpose our business. And one of the things that we realized that actually for us, we have been neglecting is insights from our omni-channel. And that could be our online store and our consumer behavior. And the minute we did that, we were sort of very surprised about where the bulk of our online stores are coming from. And the consumer behavior that we had people that had bought 110 pairs in a period of, 4 months, and they could be buying for their loved ones, whatever the case might be. But what I'm trying to say is that data and the insights that we got from our omni-channel really directed, our footprint. So by the time we went to level 3 and they said construction can begin and, these are the new regulation, whatever, we already had identified our locations using the insights and the data from our omni-channel. So we use those to really direct that. And also, I think campaigns and brand activations and really being consumer-centric, and really engaging with our consumer. Before we had stores, we had people traveling from Venda, Polokwane, going to Pretoria to buy Bathu. So when they get in store, someone will go, I'm so tired, I come from Polokwane, or I'm going home, I didn't even know this brand. My cousin says I should buy 5 pairs and they give me money. Who's this brand, And I need to take this pairs and I need to go to Zanin. But I never knew, But anyway, I'll buy myself a pair as well. So being consumer-centric and really understanding where your consumer is coming from, matching that with your insights and your data, that's what we use to do our location scouting.
Awesome. Theo, thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you.
been lovely to hear the journey of Bathu, and we wish you all the best as you continue to grow your business. A round of
you.
applause for Theo Baloyi.
Okay.
Those are some really great insights, and I'm sure you are in the room taking lots of notes, and those of you at home thinking about what your business is and what you can do for your next. You're like, okay, cool, I've got the juice now, I've got some details, let me think about this. And it's really nice to have a very practical growth journey where you can figure out what was happening behind the scenes compared to what we see on social media and bring those pieces together. I think the question that the gentleman asked around systems is a very important one, and Theo gave a very proper, like you can tell as an accountant, he answered it like, ish. I'm an entrepreneur, but firstly, I understand books, right? And I think our next speaker is also somebody that can help us really understand what happens behind the scenes in putting together proper processes. And she's going to be speaking to us about procurement processes for SMEs. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Zinhle Dube. Zinhle is a thought leader in the procurement and supply chain field. She is the founder and CEO of Smugeliso, a strategy procurement and supply chain consulting firm. Her illustrious career in corporate SA covers both technical and management consulting experience. Zinhle has delivered numerous transformational projects locally, Southwest and in Southwestern Africa, as well as in the US, with key focus on strategy, strategic sourcing, enterprise-wide cost optimization, EPCM project sourcing, business process optimization, ERP systems implementation, governance and compliance, as well as enterprise and supply development strategies. Over the years, she's worked in diverse industries, including mining, oil and gas, financial services, diversified industries, media, telecoms, metals, manufacturing, and various public sector entities. Through her work, she advocates for the supply chain function as a strategic vehicle for improving business performance and driving sustainable socioeconomic development in Africa. Zinhle also sits on various boards, and as well as for Smart Procurement World, and she is a former periodic contributor for Supply Chain Today magazine. Zinhle, welcome.